My neighbor called 911, accusing me of identity theft, but what she didn't know was that she was about to commit a real federal crime. Welcome to Law and Order, where karma wears a badge. After years of renting small apartments, I finally bought my dream home 2 years ago. A quiet street, nice neighbors, or so I thought. It was peaceful here. Birds in the morning, sprinklers in the afternoon, soft streetlights at night. I kept to myself. I was polite, quiet, didn't throw parties, didn't argue with anyone. I just minded my own business, but apparently that was enough to make me an enemy. Her name was Wendy, the kind of neighbor who looks out the window more than she lives her life. She was always watching, always waiting. From the first week I moved in, I knew something was off. When my moving truck pulled up, she came outside and started yelling at the driver, said he was blocking her driveway, and even though he wasn't. Later that day, she texted me a photo of the truck and wrote, "You're an idiot for parking like that." I didn't even know how she got my number. That was my first sign. Then came the HOA app meltdown. Apparently, she took a picture of someone's dog stepping on her lawn and posted it in the neighborhood chat like it was a crime scene. She wrote a 200-word essay titled, "Respect Property Boundaries." It got so bad, the HOA president himself commented, "Wendy, please log off." She once even complained because my shadow crossed her yard while I was mowing. Yes, my shadow. That's the level of crazy we were dealing with. But I ignored her. I didn't want drama until one day, drama came to my doorstep, and literally, a few weeks later my credit card was about to expire. I called the bank and confirmed they'd mail me a new one. Simple enough, right? Except it never arrived. After waiting a few days, I checked the tracking number. It showed delivered, but not to me. The system said it was sent to 1213 Maple Lane. My address is 1212, one number off. An honest mistake, I figured, no big deal. She'll probably walk it over. I had no idea that one envelope would start an entire neighborhood war. That afternoon, I was in my living room when I saw flashing blue lights outside. At first, I thought there was an accident, but then there was a knock on my door. I opened it, and there stood a police officer, Officer Miller. "Sir, I'm here because your neighbor, Wendy, called 911. What? Why?" Officer Miller: "She's claiming you're trying to steal her identity." "Steal her identity? What are you talking about? I haven't even talked to her in months." Officer Miller: "Look, I told her that's not how identity theft works. She's a bored old woman with nothing better to do. But she refuses to give me your mail. Said she's keeping it as evidence." I stood there completely stunned. It was my name on the card, my bank, my address, and just one number off. And now somehow I was being accused of stealing my own identity. "Officer, that's my mail. Can you please go get it back?" Officer Miller: "I'll try." He turned around and started walking across the street. I watched from my porch, arms crossed, my heart pounding in my chest. This was absurd. But what happened next took it from absurd to unbelievable. Wendy opened her door before the officer could even knock. Her voice carried across the yard. Sharp, defensive, theatrical, mimicking Wendy's yelling, "She's stealing my mail. That's federal fraud." The officer tried to calm her down, but Wendy wasn't listening. She wanted an audience then. She did it. She looked at the card in her hand, paused for a moment, then smiled that smug little smile I'd seen before, and with her eyes locked right on the officer's, she fed my brand new credit card straight into a shredder sitting by her door, right there, in front of him. The sound of the plastic tearing apart was like nails on a chalkboard. She actually did it. I couldn't believe what I'd just witnessed. She destroyed my property, right in front of a police officer. And the officer? He just stood there speechless. A few seconds later, he came back across the street. She shredded it. Look, she's delusional. My hands are tied here, but just so you know, what she just did, it's called mail tampering. It's a federal crime. I'm just letting you know. I nodded, still processing what had just happened. A federal crime. The words echoed in my head like a warning bell. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face and that smug grin as she shredded my mail. She'd done it in front of a cop. Because she thought she could. Because she thought she was untouchable. And that's when something inside me changed. For months I'd ignored her behavior. The texts, the yelling, the public tantrums, but this time, it wasn't just annoying, it was illegal. For a second I thought about letting it go, pretending it didn't happen. But then I remembered her grin, the way she looked at that officer like she owned the law. And I decided, enough was enough. If Wendy wanted to play with the law, she was about to find out what real authority looks like. Because I wasn't going to call 911 this time. No, I was going to call someone much higher. Next time, she wouldn't be dealing with Officer Miller. She'd be dealing with the federal government. The next morning, I brewed a strong cup of coffee, sat down at my desk, and opened my laptop. If Wendy wanted to play the law, I was going to introduce her to the people who wrote it. I typed U.S. Postal Inspection Service, report mail tampering. There it was on the official government site. No blog, no forum, the real deal. The form asked for dates, addresses, and a description of what happened. I wrote everything in detail. The wrong delivery, the shredded card, the officer's statement, even the sound of the shredder. Then I hit submit. I didn't expect anything to happen right away. But a week later I found out that when the feds move, they don't need sirens. It was a Thursday afternoon. The sky was overcast, that quiet before the rain kind of gray. I was sitting on my porch with a cup of tea when a black sedan rolled slowly down the street. No markings, no lights, just presence. It stopped right in front of Wendy's house. The doors opened and two people stepped out. A man and a woman, both in dark suits, badges clipped to their belts. Even from across the street you could feel it, that quiet authority that doesn't need to yell. And just like that, Wendy's wind chimes went silent. They walked up her driveway, crisp and professional. The woman knocked 3 times and firm, controlled. No answer. The man knocked again, louder. Mrs. Langley, U.S. Postal Inspection Service? And that's when the door creaked open. Wendy appeared wearing that same faded pink robe she always wore during her morning stakeouts. At first she looked annoyed. Probably thought they were salespeople. Then the woman flashed her badge. Even from where I sat, I could see Wendy freeze. Her eyes blinked fast. Her posture changed. That fake confidence melted away like snow on asphalt. I couldn't hear what they said, only see. But body language can tell a whole story. The agents asked questions. Wendy tried to laugh them off, gesturing wildly, pointing toward my house. The man took notes on a clipboard. The woman just watched her, expressionless, like she'd seen this type 100 times before. Then Wendy's hand started shaking. Her face went from pink to white. And that's when I knew. She realized this wasn't a neighborhood dispute anymore. After a few minutes, they asked her to step outside. She did quietly. They showed her some papers, probably the report I filed. She nodded slowly, talked for a bit, then tried to point again toward my house. But the agents didn't even look. They just kept their focus on her. Finally, the female agent said something short, final. Wendy's shoulders slumped. And just like that, the door closed behind them. The whole thing lasted maybe 10 minutes. But those 10 minutes changed everything. For the first time since I'd moved in, the street felt peaceful. Later that evening, Officer Miller stopped by again. He looked different this time, a bit of a smirk on his face. He said, "Hey there. You probably saw the visit earlier?" I nodded. "Yeah, was that what I think it was?" He said, "Yep, postal inspectors. They don't mess around." He leaned on the railing. She was lucky. They could have taken her in today. Mail tampering's a federal offense. They're giving her a formal warning and recording it. I raised an eyebrow. "A warning?" The officer chuckled. "Trust me, it's enough. Once you're on their radar, you don't want a second visit." He tipped his hat and walked back to his car. That night, the neighborhood was quiet. No yelling, no patrol lights, no screenshots on the HOA app. Just peace. Wendy didn't look out her window the next morning. She didn't water her lawn at 6 a.m. like usual. She didn't even come to the next HOA meeting. It was like someone had pressed mute on the entire street. A few days later, I got a letter in my mailbox, this time addressed correctly. It was from the U.S. Postal Inspection Service. They thanked me for reporting the incident and confirmed that appropriate action had been taken. At the bottom, in small print, it read, "Tampering with mail is a federal crime punishable by up to 5 years in prison or fines." I smiled and folded the letter neatly into my drawer. A week later, I was walking to my car when I saw Wendy standing by her mailbox. She was different. Quiet, avoiding eye contact, hands trembling as she sorted her letters. For a moment our eyes met. She opened her mouth like she wanted to say something, then stopped and looked away. No words, no attitude, just silence. Funny how justice doesn't always need revenge. Sometimes it just needs accountability. I went back to my life and cut the grass, painted the fence, enjoyed quiet mornings again. Every now and then I'd see the postal inspector's car drive through the neighborhood, checking on other cases. Wendy would duck inside whenever she saw them, and for the first time in months I felt safe in my own home. I realized that sometimes karma doesn't come in flames or fury. Sometimes it wears a badge and a suit, and it knocks politely before it sets things right. A few weeks later, the HOA held a block party. Everyone was there, except Wendy. But people talked, quietly at first, then openly. Turns out she'd been doing this for years, calling 911 on neighbors, accusing them of everything from noise complaints to property theft. This time, though, it finally caught up to her. When you abuse authority for too long, eventually authority looks back at you. Wendy used to call 911 to feel powerful. She thought she was the law. But when you commit a federal crime, you don't get to call the shots anymore. The real emergency wasn't me. It was her own arrogance. She thought she could control everyone around her, until the law she pretended to worship showed up at her door. In the end, I didn't need to yell, argue, or seek revenge. All I did was tell the truth and let the system do its job. And honestly, that felt better than anything else. If you believe that karma always finds its way, then hit that subscribe button. Because here on Law & Order we know that karma wears a badge, and sometimes justice comes in a black sedan with no sirens.